America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call.
Alexander. Spitali.
Here.
Venez.
Here.
Kelwinski.
Here.
Torres. Tyler.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Warple.
Here.
Rakos.
Here.
Alexander.
Yes, present.
Okay, we have 8 present at this time. Mayor's address.
Hi, Council. It's good to see you all. To the audience we have, it's great to see everybody, and I know we have a large audience watching at home. This is my council report for June 26, 2023. I'll just do a little summary of the stuff I've done over the past few weeks on behalf of the city. I do want to remind everybody that we've had a summer concert series going all summer at the Pavilion on Friday nights. We've already had the band Together, Visions of Santana, Trippin' Billies, and the Northwest Indiana Symphony Orchestra playing out there on Friday nights. These shows are free, parking's free, everything's free. You can bring your own booze and all that. So we still have 3 shows coming up. On August 25th, we have Hollywood Swinging. On September 1st, we have the band Talisk. And on September 15th, we have the Hapa Rock Band. So that takes place on Friday nights. It's free in Hammond's 1st District. I met with, speaking of Hammond's 1st District, I know I talked to some council members that were concerned about what was going on with Horseshoe Casino, and I'm happy to report I had a real positive meeting with the Horseshoe Casino leadership. I took another tour of the boat. Quite frankly, I don't gamble, so haven't been on the casino boat in a long time. They showed me a lot of the new things they're working on, and I think they're really heading in the right direction, so I was glad we had that meeting. We just had a fire, actually, in the Horseshoe Casino garage yesterday, or the day before, I forget. I want to congratulate and thank the Hammond Fire Department. That was yesterday, right, Chief? Friday. I want to thank the Hammond Fire Department for working so quickly to put it out. It was a scary situation. Met on behalf of City of Hammond with Tom Keon, the Chancellor of PNW, in regards to a development in downtown Hammond that Purdue Northwest is interested in. It's a real interesting proposal. There's still a lot of work to do on this issue, but I thought that was a great meeting. Also in Hammond's 1st District, a lot going on up north. We had National Night Out. I want to thank all the council members that participated with National Night Out this year. I want to thank the Crime Watch organizations that participate with Crime Watch, particularly Councilwoman Janet Venez and all of her help with the group and the Hammond Crime Watch and everybody that came out. We had great attendance this year. I want to thank Jill Gajewski, the Special Events Coordinator for the Hammond Port Authority, as well as Hammond Special Events Team. I want to thank all of our police partners, obviously the Hammond Police Department, our favorite police partner, but we also had Indiana State Police out there, the Lake County Sheriff. It was a great event. It was we had a great turnout. It was real positive, and we didn't get a word mentioned in any of the local media, which is a real shame. They cover everybody else's National Night Out, and they don't cover ours, but that's for another day. Met with executives of BP Whiting, on behalf of a project that they're looking to down the road in the city of Hammond. It's a green energy investment. If it works out, it could be worth a lot of money for the citizens of Hammond, for the city of Hammond. It's a real interesting proposal. It's a long way off, but we were just talking about long-term picture stuff. It was a real positive meeting. We had a great meeting last week in the mayor's office with HC3. That's the Hessville neighborhood group. HC3 and the mayor's office have been working together on what's going on with Kennedy Avenue. I met with the same group to come up with what we're doing in regards to Kennedy Avenue redesign with the extra wide parking and extra wide sidewalks. This same group and I met this last meeting and went through in detail the 6900 to 7100 block of Kennedy Avenue. That's 69 to 7100 block Kennedy Avenue.
68 on.
68, excuse me. 68 to 71. Sorry, Councilman. So 6,800 to 7,100. We were looking in particular detail at property acquisitions we want to make on behalf of the city to help spur development along Kennedy Avenue. I think that was a great meeting. Looking forward to the next one. Today I appeared on a radio show at the Little Calumet River Basin Authority, thanking them for their donation towards our project along the Hammond-Munster border, thanking them for all the flood control efforts that they've done to help make our citizens safer, to save our citizens money on flood insurance premiums, and also thanking them for creating miles of new bike trails in Hammond on top of the levees. Former councilman that used to represent Hammond's 5th District is running the Little Calumet River Basin Authority, Dan Ripe. Dan Ripe has done such a good job. He was recently awarded the key to the city of Hammond as well. So thanks to Dan and everything that Little Calumet River Basin Authority is doing for us. We recently held the Clark Field auction for the 34 residential lots that we bid out. This was property that we recently acquired from the school city Hammond. We subdivided it. We have a plan to invest in infrastructure up here. It's divided into 34 different lots. Minimum bids ranged from $14,000 to $18,000. During our auction on August 3rd, every single parcel sold, some of them for triple their value. One went for $64,000. Minimum bid was $14,000. I know, I'm not going to say because it's not my place to say, but we had really good participation. It was great to see so many people show up. It's exciting to see a new neighborhood springing up out of something that was, it was fields, but didn't generate any tax revenue, and now it will be. So infrastructure is being built this fall with new homes starting soon after into the next year. We will have covenants to keep this new subdivision looking consistent in regards to fencing, driveways, building materials, etc. Last but not least, I know that we're going to talk about the gas station ordinance later, so I'm not even going to make that part of my report. Last but not least, I wanted to congratulate everybody that had anything to do with running Beatles Fest this weekend. With Downtown Hammond revitalization project underway, Beatles Fest returned to the historic downtown Hammond over the weekend. For the first time, this year's fest was a 2-day event and included performances by Beatle bands from the Chicagoland area, such as American English, bands from Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, and even as far as Argentina. It was the biggest lineup ever. We had a great crowd, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that participated in Beatles Fest this weekend, everybody that helped put that event on. It's not run by the city of Hammond. It's a private event that's run in our city, but it's something that a lot of people travel far and wide to attend, so congratulations. And if there's no other, like I said, I have comments on the gas station. I'll just wait until we do that ordinance. I don't know if the council has any other questions. If not, that's my report.
Does anybody have any questions for the mayor? Go ahead. Councilman Torres.
You mentioned the Kennedy Avenue, Woodholman Avenue. As was last week. Any progress on that? As
Yeah.
last week, it was closed both ways.
It's been closed, Councilman. We closed it on purpose to try to be able to finish the project this winter, and it's not going to happen. So we're going to have to reopen it up for the winter, and unfortunately, it's not going to be completed before we have to button up. So we're not going to be able to make it because of unforeseen circumstances that occurred. So that's, and I'm glad you asked the question. I should have included that in my report, but yeah, that's obviously not great news. We shut it down hoping that we could get this entire project buttoned up before the close of business, and I was just informed last week because of unforeseen circumstances, it's not going to happen. So we'll button it up early next year, unfortunately. Sorry about that. It's bad way to find out. I should have called you earlier.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman.
Mayor, I just want to, I'm pretty sure you were probably made aware of the situation, but right as we finished the barricades on state line, somebody drove through one of them.
I did not hear that, Councilman. Sorry.
And so I just want to thank the engineering department and the police department for being on top of it. One of the residents caught it on her Ring camera
When did that happen?
last Sunday.
I did not hear
Yeah.
that. I'll follow it up with my department.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
they're on top of it, so.
I know, but I'm supposed to know these things so
yeah.
I don't look stupid when I come in public, like right now, for
It was,
instance.
it was like right after we
I
finished.
know, but
it.
you understand what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah,
supposed to.
I hear you.
I'm supposed to be able to intelligently answer your question, Councilman, and I can't because I wasn't briefed by my staff, so.
Well, I just
I'll
wanted
follow
to-
this up later, though, I promise.
I just want to commend you and your staff for being on top of that situation and taking care of it so quickly. I believe the arborvitaes were already repaired and the barriers already back up. So everything looks great over there. So thanks to engineering for
No, that's
contracting
nice.
out and
I
fixing it.
appreciate
So
it. Thanks, Councilman.
Anybody else?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to thank Dan Ripe as well. That was a historic event for the 4th District, and the bike bridge looks beautiful, and
gorgeous.
he should get the key to the city.
Thank you, I appreciate it, Councilman. And while we're talking about that bridge, it's sort of weird right now because it leaves you sort of stranded because of what's going on with the South Shore. Usually you would kick out if you're headed west towards Hammond. You would be able to take the trail all the way out to Hammond and then cross the Little Cal into Munster that way. Now it just sort of dumps you on Harrison. You sort of have to get off and then make your way to Harrison. It's really weird right now, but eventually that'll all be linked up and it'll be an integral part of our bike trail system. Right now, it's gorgeous. I love taking it, but it does sort of leave you stranded in Munster right now, so. But thank you, Councilman. Thanks, I'll be talking to you later, I'm sure. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, approval of minutes.
President,
Councilman Vitale.
a motion to accept the minutes from July 24, 2023 be placed on file, please.
Second.
And a motion by Councilman Spitali and a second by Councilman Warple. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Approval of claims.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
I request approval of claims dated July 19th, 2023 through July 9th, 2023, beginning with claim number 5031 through claim number 5529 inclusive, in the amount of $7,851,043.75. I so move.
Second.
Been a motion by Councilwoman Vines and a second by Councilman Spitali. Approval of claims. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Vines,
Yes.
Kelwinsky,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. Claims passes 9-0. We have all 9 present now. Okay, next up, public hearing. Say that.
'2317, an ordinance vacating a 3,021-foot portion of 125th Street lying east of Calumet Avenue in the 800 to 1300 blocks of 125th Street in the city of Hammond, Lake County, Indiana.
Okay, so anybody from the public who would like to speak on this can come up to the microphone and express your opinion on that. It's 23-17. Or anybody that would like to speak on 23-17? Anybody here for 2317? Public hearing closed. Next up, communications.
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
I'd like to make a motion that all communications received be accepted and placed on file.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve all claims,
No, communicate.
approve all, I'm sorry, all communications. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Any other communications? Any other communications? Communications is closed. Committee reports.
Mr. President. Oh. Go ahead.
Councilman Kowinski?
Thank you. Council as a whole will be bringing out 23-17.
Thank you. Councilman Warple?
The CIB Board met on Monday, August 7th. The Capital Improvements Board approved the funding allocation. NICD accommodate downtown Hammond Station, Russell Street pedestrian tunnel in the amount of $221,575.55. A funding allocation for the Marquette Greenway Kennedy Decline Row Engineering, First Group Engineering, in the amount of $57,500. And we also approved an expenditure to the Little Calumet River Trail pedestrian bridge in the amount of $179,612.48.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
yes, council as a whole will be bringing out 2316. And, Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to read the upcoming Community and Crime Watch groups. The upcoming Community and Crime Watch meetings are scheduled as follows. Community Watch at Mount Zion Pleasant View Plaza will be on Wednesday, September 13th at 1 p.m. East Hammond Pullman Crime Watch is scheduled for tomorrow night, Tuesday, August 15th, 6 p.m. at the Ophelia Steen Center. Edison Community Watch will meet Wednesday, September 6th, 6:30 p.m. at Edison School. Harrison Park Crime Watch will meet Tuesday, October 3rd at the VFW on Homan Avenue. That is beginning at 6 p.m. Hessville Crime Watch will meet Thursday, August 15th, 6 p.m. at the Gene Shepherd Center. Irving Community Watch will meet Friday, September 8th, 9:15 a.m. at Irving School. South Homan Avenue Neighborhood Watch has yet to firm up their October meeting date, but they will be meeting soon. Whiting Robertsdale Crime Watch will meet Thursday, September 14th, 6:30 p.m. at Calumet College. Every meeting, I encourage everyone to come to a community or crime watch meeting to find out what is going on in your neighborhood. We have in our audience tonight some of our community policing officers. Thank you. Thank you for attending our meetings and keeping us up to date on what's going on in our neighborhoods. We also have some Crime Watch members here this evening. They are the ones who disseminate the information throughout the neighborhood so we can keep our neighborhood safe, protect our families, and protect our property. Please come out to a Crime Watch meeting and find out what is going on in your neighborhood so you can keep you and your family safe. Because community is not just about me, it's about us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports, I'm sorry? Any other committee reports? Committee reports is closed. Ordinance, third reading and final passage.
2316, an ordinance regulating the hours of operation of automobile fueling stations within the city of Hammond.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
yes, I move for final passage of 2316A.
Second.
Hold on. We do 2316 first?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, 2316. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Warple. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
yes, I would like to replace 2316 with 2316A.
As an amendment
Yes,
in its entirety?
in its entirety.
Thank you.
Thank you for the coaching.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Spitali. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
I recommend that we also have another public hearing so that the gas station owners, the public, and also the workers can talk about those amendments as read.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilwoman
I
Vines.
have no objection to the councilwoman's suggestion. I would, however, like to read through the amendments in the ordinance before we get started with discussion from the audience. I so move.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
A motion was made, and we didn't give it a chance to get a second.
Mr. President?
Hold on. What was you had a motion to have
Yes.
a public hearing?
Yes.
And when did you establish a public hearing time, or?
If we can do it for the next meeting, that would be great, or set another date outside of today for that public hearing so that they have the opportunity to speak on it, because I don't feel that they're here in order to speak on it because these are brand-new amendments. So we can set it for the next council meeting, if that would be great, before the meeting actually happens. So 4 o'clock for, what's our next meeting date?
Mr. President?
Second.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Why don't we do it today? We got everybody here. You got all the gas station owners here, you got Hammond Police Department here, you got a lot of other interested residents, and we're gonna make them all come back in 2 weeks? That's dumb. Let's do it right now.
Mr. President, just for clarification, I think for public hearings, we have to advertise it for a certain amount of time before we can host it.
Mr. President, this is a delaying tactic. Like we've been delaying, we delayed from the last meeting, trying to delay another 2 weeks. How many more people have to get shot before we do something about this?
All right, so right now, the motion on the floor, after we just introduced 2316A, we already have a motion to have a public hearing. We haven't even voted on 2316A.
So question, are we voting on 16A as in first and second reading, and then we hold a public meeting? Or is it voting on first, second, and third, and it passes with this amendment? That's the unclarity.
Mr. President?
Councilman Vines.
I think we need some clarification. Are we looking for a public hearing, as in the next meeting? Or are we looking to right now suspend the rules to allow whomever would like to speak on the ordinance to speak on the ordinance this evening? So is it a public hearing or is it a suspension of the rules?
Mr. President, it is for a public hearing on the next meeting at 4 PM. That is my motion.
Call for the vote.
And I did a second on it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a
Can I
second.
say something before there's a vote?
Yes.
This is 2 more weeks. Last time it was 2 more weeks. This time it's 2 more weeks. Seriously, this is ridiculous.
It
Let's
is.
vote on this tonight.
I agree, but we will vote on a public hearing for the next meeting at 4 o'clock, the 28th.
Mr. President,
Okay.
the motion's been made to bring it out, and the motion's been made for first and second reading. So,
No.
No.
I'm sorry, for third and final reading,
An amendment
passage.
to the third and final reading, yes.
So are we making a motion to table it?
I don't know.
Under, Mr. President, under discussion, a motion was made for another public hearing, which is
Based off of
within-
the
which is
amendments.
within her right to do that, and now we have to vote. A public hearing in 2 weeks at 4 PM. It has to come to a vote. It was
Call for the
It was a
vote.
motion and it was seconded, regardless of the outcome.
Okay, so we're going to vote on a motion to have a public hearing
Yes.
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
No.
Vines,
No.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
No.
Warple,
No.
Rakos.
No. Is that 5-4?
Motion failed.
4, 5 against.
What was-
4 to 5.
Yeah.
The motion lost.
Failed.
The motion
Motion
failed.
failed,
Now,
correct? Okay,
now the motion is on the amendment, right?
yes.
So on this-
We're going to have discussion on the amendment. In its
Miss-
entirety.
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
even though we've had 3 meetings now, where the public's been invited, and we've heard the concerns of members of the public, I make a motion that we give the public, I make a motion to suspend the rules and let the public speak for 1 minute, 2 minutes, if they have anything to say before we vote on this measure. I make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
A second.
Point of
hold on.
order, point of order. Mr. President, there's a motion on the floor to amend the ordinance in its entirety. I have offered to read the amendments before we allow the public to speak.
I withdraw my motion. You can read the amendment.
I'll second that.
Okay. So let's hear 23-16A in its entirety.
Okay, the whole thing, all righty. So, an ordinance regulating the hours of operation of automobile fueling stations within the city of Hammond. Whereas Indiana Code 36-A-2 grants the city of Hammond general powers concerning public safety, health, and general welfare. And whereas Indiana Code 36-8-2-4 and 36-8-2-10 authorizes the city of Hammond to regulate the use of property that might endanger public health, safety, or welfare, and specifically allows for the regulation of business operations within the city limits. And whereas the city of Hammond finds it necessary to regulate automobile fueling station hours of operation due to the ongoing desire to control crime, deter the continued impact of cross-border crime from Illinois, and to prevent violent acts and criminal offenses occurring at automobile fueling stations during the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. And whereas recently a homicide took place at an automobile fueling station, and since the introduction of this ordinance, a shooting occurred at another fueling station, as just the latest violent act taking place at an automobile fueling station, and that such violent acts place public health and safety at risk. And whereas the Common Council has held 2 public hearings on this ordinance to allow members of the public, including fueling station owners, employees at fueling stations, residents, police officers, and others voice their opinions regarding the closure of fueling stations between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. Whereas the Hammond Police Department, through its Chief William Short and Lieutenant Carl Idem, spoke at the public hearings and indicated the challenges that the Hammond Police Department has in patrolling fueling stations overnight, the fact that statistical data will not show the amount of crime that occurs at fueling stations at night because criminals utilize fueling stations as a meeting place, but will disperse upon police arrival time and time again. And that furthermore, the police department from a crime control standpoint fully supports the closure contemplated in this ordinance, and whereas not a controlling factor, but as an additional piece of information, the police department further indicated that when responding to any call at a fueling station, from the very mundane to the very violent, that it will respond with multiple patrol vehicles and officers, leaving parts of the city that those vehicles and officers would usually be patrolling left unguarded due to the needed presence at fueling stations. And whereas the administration, to fulfill requests made by council members, provided data on both violent and nonviolent crime at fueling stations, showing the hundreds of police calls over a period of 2019 through 2023, that further support the need to control crime at fueling stations to assist in preventing and lowering crime throughout the city. And whereas the City of Hammond finds the regulation of hours of automobile fueling stations falls within the city's police powers, and specifically its desire to control crime, and that the hours restricted are reasonably related to crime control and the prevention and the reduction of crime and the maintenance of public safety, health, and general welfare. And now therefore be it ordained by the Hammond Council of the City of Hammond in the exercise of their powers as follows. Automobile fueling stations, hours of operation. It shall be unlawful for automobile fueling stations to open earlier than 5 o'clock, 5 a.m., unless otherwise determined by the Board of Public Works and Safety as set forth in paragraph F. Automobile fueling stations shall close no later than 12 o'clock a.m. unless otherwise determined by the Board of Public Works and Safety as set forth in paragraph F. C. No automobile fueling station shall permit any person other than an operator and its employees to retain in or on an automobile fueling station premises longer than 30 minutes after the closing hour or 30 minutes prior to the operating hour. D. For purpose of this section, automobile fueling station is as defined in section 1.50 of the City of Hammond zoning ordinance as a building of other permanent structures or a tract of land used exclusively for the storage, dispensing, and sale of gasoline or other motor fuels and for any uses accessory thereto. E. An automobile fueling station granted a variance of use by the Common Council upon recommendation by the Board of Zoning Appeals must adhere to the hours of operation conditioned in the variance of use or as set forth in any other agreement with the city. F. An automobile fueling station may petition the Board of Public Works and Safety requesting an exception to the hours of operation set forth in this section. Upon request, the Board of Public Works and Safety shall hold a hearing at which time the automobile fueling station may present evidence to the board in the form of testimony and exhibits. The fueling station shall be responsible for notifying any property owner within 300 feet of the fueling station of the hearing and of the opportunity for the property owner to be heard in favor or against the request of the fueling station. The Board of Public Works and Safety shall notify the automobile fueling station in writing of its ruling by regular electronic and certified mail within 10 days of the hearing. The determination of the Board of Public Works and Safety under this section is final. If an exception is granted, it shall be valid for 1 year from the date of determination. A fueling station must reapply to the Board of Public Works and Safety annually before the expiration date for the renewal of the exception. The factors that the Board of Public Works and Safety will consider shall include, but not be limited to, the following. 1. Incidents of criminal acts and police calls over the last 5 years with emphasis on the last 24 months. 2. What does that say?
Whether the fueling station.
Yeah, mine was Xeroxed over. Whether the fueling station is part of the FUSIS program allowing cameras to be monitored by the Hammond Police Department. Whether or not there is an adequate, this is number 3, whether or not there is an adequate security presence overnight at the fueling station. 4, whether or not the fueling station is in a residential area versus a commercial or industrial area. Number 5, whether or not the fueling station would be considered to be easily accessible by interstate travelers. 6, whether or not the fueling station has had other city ordinance violations and whether or not it currently is in violation of any city ordinance placing emphasis on those that could impact safety. 7, whether or not the fueling station has adequate lighting for nighttime operations. 8, whether or not the fueling station is properly licensed with the city and whether or not it has now or in the past had their business license suspended, revoked, or has operated with an expired business license. 9, any other relevant factor. G, penalty 10-99, any automobile fueling station in operation during the restricted times as set forth in paragraphs A and B is subject to citation. Each day constitutes a separate offense. If any section, paragraph, clause, or provisions of this ordinance shall be held invalid, the invalidity therefore shall not affect any of the other provisions of this ordinance. All ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repeated to the extent of such conflict. This ordinance shall take effect on November 1st, 2023. Therefore, be it ordained by the Hammond Common Council that this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon signing by the President of the Common Council and approval by the Mayor and publications as provided by law. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, do somebody have a motion to,
Mr. President,
yes?
I make a motion to suspend the rules to allow members of the audience to speak to the ordinance.
Second.
Who was the second? We have a motion and a second by Councilman Kowinski. Any discussion on the motion to suspend the rules? Any
Roll call.
roll call?
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. Motion's been approved to suspend the rules to allow the public to talk on this ordinance. We have an awful lot of people here. Hopefully you can keep your comments direct and a minute or two would be preferable. So would anybody in the public like to come up and speak about this ordinance?
George Stoyer, Robertsdale. As you well know, I've probably said enough on this already, but I'm not going to address the merits. That should be something that should have been done already. What I'm concerned about is, this is hardly the same, you guys keep ranting about two public meetings. Yeah, the first two were didn't get as far, didn't get beyond the whereas clauses. Now we've got some actual nuts and bolts and bones and flesh on this thing, and nobody knows what the conditions are. Do you really think one oral reading is going to register and suffice that people can take critical note, whose ever interest is involved here, of what's going on? I don't see that many gas station guys out there, and that's something that whoever is, that they should have been here, should be here, should get up here and talk. But in terms of the sheer form of any remonstrance here is a sham. What, you get one reading of the full fully contemplated ordinance, and that's going to be enough. 5 minutes after Janet has read it, oh, we get to comment on it. Hell, we don't even know where to begin to start. I mean, look at some of them. I mean, there's like, what, 19 more provisions were added to it with penalties? You know, all the parts are severable. You know, doesn't this disturb the whole? At least that's how they contemplate it. Whether a court enforces it, well, that's two different things. But the point is, we haven't had adequate notice. That's what all I'm trying to say here. You know, it's being rammed down here. I don't know what the mayor's rush is. It doesn't take place until, it doesn't go into effect until November. Like it was a couple months. What's the rush? Why can't we discuss the merits? Again, it's just there's just been no discussion of the terms and conditions of this legislation.
Thank you, George. Anybody else?
I wear my white shirt, so I'm a good guy. I have kind of agree with the last gentleman. All these amendments and all these things were bought, and this, I just got this as of last Thursday. It's very hard to go through that. I went through the statistics. In that ordinance, it says the statistics don't matter, but in some respects they do. I'm going to try and keep this as short. I wasn't planning on taking this part of it, but 3 stations, police calls, 22 per year each. The next 3 stations have approximately 11 per year. The next 8 stations, I've kind of grouped these together, have 4 calls per year. The last group is 3 calls per year, totaling a whole 149. I mean, we don't want any, but I hadn't have time to go through and say, well, this one doesn't apply. It was an alarm call. Well, you still had to send an officer. I understand that. We paid fines for that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Excuse me. I have a photograph here of the last murder. We've had 4 murders in, 3 months? The last murder was on Park Avenue. It's right across from Harrison Park. Kids' playground. Are we going to close that down? I have to defer to the police. They're here in force. They do more than I know. But I think that we should be entitled to know what they know. I wish that I'd be able to talk to them. So I could, every time I come here, I learn something new. It's amazing. It truly is. One thing that was stated in the new ordinance was that it was talking about when a police car drives in, everybody drives out. I believe, and I don't remember exactly how I phrased this, but it's on my phone. I would have had more time, and I'm trying to keep it as short as possible. But most people don't want to deal with the police, and they're afraid of the police. I wasn't brought up that way, but there's a lot of people who are terrified of it, and they don't want to be involved, and they don't want to become involved. That's just a matter of what I hear on the news and so forth. I don't know. I'm trying to keep it straight,
Okay.
but I'm trying to get as much out here. I'm going to propose one thing that hasn't been proposed before. I've talked to a number of the independent gasoline station dealers. We would be willing, for what I have so far, we would be willing to close for 1 full year under those guidelines, from midnight till 4 in the morning, or 5, whichever it is. We would be willing to close, but you have to scrap this mess of all these regulations. Just close it for a year, show us that the crime statistics can come down, that there are not more gangs involved, that there's not more drugs involved. I mean, the statistics here that I have don't prove your case. I'm sorry, it's 149 for the whole year. And some of those were hang-ups. Whether an officer was dispatched, I don't know. I mean, when you don't get these statistics till the last minute, and then you try to push this ordinance, which you had all these additional things, I didn't know about it. I was very fortunate to find out Thursday of this last week. So you're asking us to take this as is. But we were willing to close for 1 full year. You decide whether we should open back up, but we want it citywide. We don't want any exceptions to the rule. Every exit has got a gas station on the other side of it, on the south side, within a quarter of a mile, and they're all open 24 hours. So there's no reason for an exception. But we're interested in making this place safe, this city. We're willing to give up, but again, I'll say what I said.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I've got one more little thing.
All right.
Just remember what I said a long time ago. You're going to lose 30 jobs at least by doing that. But it shouldn't be any.
Did you just say you were willing to close them down for a year?
Yes,
Okay.
for those times. But I want it done citywide.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Andy Short, your chief of police. I don't think everybody's afraid of the police department. If I was, I never would have been afraid of the police. I think Paul Walker's here now, and he's one of the guys that could tell you that the reason I became a police is because of some of the things that this young man has done, well, a little older man, has done for us. But I come to stand in support of this gas station closure ordinance. Our community safety is paramount. This is what you guys asked of me, and this is what I'm trying to do, prevention. And recent incidents demand our attention. Late nights, early mornings have witnessed a rise in crimes at gas stations, carjackings, robberies, shootings. This ordinance isn't just about regulation. It's about creating a safer Hammond. I told you guys inside there a story, the reason why I'm really into this thing. I go to a call I get a call probably about, I think, 1 or 2 in the morning at the mobile gas station. I think it's the mobile gas station at Goslin and Holman. Car shot up, is riddled. I'm going there for a double homicide. I go there, I look, I said, what the crap? So then I go down to the Fathom gas station where this vehicle ended up at. No one told me that inside this vehicle was a 1-year-old baby. A 1-year-old baby. This baby is inside of a vehicle that got shot up and both of the parents are dead. That should be enough for me to talk to the people here to say, hey, you know, something's going on here. Let's look into some of this stuff. I'm glad Mayor McDermott's endorsement, dedication highlights our shared commitment. Passing this ordinance sends a clear message. We prioritize safety and stand united against crime. As we move forward, I encourage each of you to consider the gravity of this issue. Our actions today will determine the future we build for Hammond. By supporting this ordinance, you send a powerful message that we stand united against violence and crime, that we prioritize the safety of our citizens, families, and neighbors. I urge you support in building a safer future for our city. Let's work together for a secure Hammond. I've been a policeman going on 36 years, and I have never been afraid of the police. Before I became a cop, I still am not. If you look behind me, you see all of the sisters and brothers that's in blue that's here to help this city become an even better city than what it is by preventing the crime before it gets here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your service, Chief.
Councilman, Mr. Mayor. 23 years retired, 22 years on the department. I could tell you this conversation is embedded in my head. The mayor's father was what I considered one hell of a leader of this city at the time. He brought us together into a room and he said, we have a problem, let's fix it, let's sit down. We called it community policing at the time. Things have changed drastically in the United States of America. But the men and women behind me haven't. And they took an oath. They took an oath to protect all your districts and to come out into that squad car and give their life for you if they have to. But when you have a problem, and I'm going to paint a picture I painted for a few of you before, it was called Kennedy Park Apartments. In my era, we had 20 squads there a night, 20, 4 to 5 on site, and a community policing office there. 7, 8 squads had to run there every 15 minutes from out your communities. Took all your constituents' cars away, which is happening today. Those cars are leaving your constituents and going to a place that could be helping. This isn't I'm not here to slam any businesses or give them any hard time, but community policing is, let's sit down and solve the problem. Let's figure out, why is this station having all these problems? What's causing everybody to go there? We have a lot of flow through this community from different areas, and you all know what I'm speaking of. We have to figure out why that is, but you're not going to solve it by just saying, let's keep the gas stations open and keep running. Chief Short's people, take a good look at them. They took an oath to serve all of you, your constituents, your neighborhoods. They want to protect you. But when 10 of them are sitting at a gas station, you got 10 cars off your streets. And there's probably, I think, Chief Short, did you say 11 to 12? Sometimes we used to have to get 15 to 20 on the street at times. Mayor Daley put a big crush in Chicago. We got all the flow. Kennedy Park Apartments sticks in my mind. 20 squads on some nights. Why would you want to live that over in the gas stations now? Get them to work with you. Pass the ordinance, community policing, sit down, solve the issue, let these men and women do their job. I've never seen a higher rate of solved things under Captain Hinojosa. You don't know what you have here in Hammond compared to other communities. And I'm prejudiced. I have to say that. But it's here for you folks. Get them back on the streets. Let them patrol your neighborhoods and solve the gas station problem. But if you don't pass an ordinance, you have no start. You have nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Behrens? Mr. Behrens?
Hold on 1 second.
Just,
Chief Barnes, could you give your name first, hey Fred.
right,
Could you give your name so we get your, she needs the name.
E-H-R-E-N-S.
Mr. Behrens, just for the record, could you state what years you were the police chief?
God, I'm old, man. It was 1995 to 2001, and then Chief Corey took over for me. And I'll tell you, I've had some great chiefs that came up under me, Chief Short, Chief Miller. You guys policing is a different animal. They don't want to hurt anybody. They don't want to cause any problems. They want to protect you all. They want to protect your neighborhoods. But when you have a continual problem in a neighborhood and you don't fix it, you're not getting anywhere. And the definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing over and over. Start somewhere. That's all I'm saying. Start somewhere. You guys are all very intelligent people. You're elected officials. They elected you because they believe in you. Fix the problem. Start somewhere. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President, can I make a comment?
No, let's let the public speak. But this is public expression. This is what public
You want me to go over there?
Next up, anybody that does come up, please give your name so that we'll be able to get your name on the record.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Sonny. I'm a gas station owner. One question I have is, we keep talking about the crimes, the police calls that happen at night, but what about that happen during the day? Last meeting, you guys said you needed another meeting to discuss the stats. So what are the stats? Do you guys know them? Or apparently they don't matter, but they should matter because, at night, it's really not that much crime that occurs. During the day, there's much more crime that occurs. So like 169th and Speedway, about 2 weeks ago, there was a homicide at 6 p.m. So what about that? How are you guys going to stop that? At one of my gas stations on Gosselin and Holman, which we do close at night over there because it's a brand new building, it was in the ordinance. We had a carjacking at 2 p.m. This happened several times, so how are we going to stop that? And then also, you guys want to pick and choose what gas stations can stay open and what cannot.
No.
At night, there's discussions. So what if I can stay open? Let me ask you guys, if you were a gas station owner and you can't stay open, but the guy across the street can. Is that really fair? You know, it's not. So if you guys want to do it citywide.
We do.
But, you know,
That's the ordinance.
I still think you guys should discuss the facts that I don't think, you know, most of you guys don't know them. How many crimes occurred at night in the past 5 years? And, you know, I wish you guys take that into consideration before you guys made a rule.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Anybody else from the public? Any other police officers? I know your chief did speak, but anybody else like to speak on the issue? Okay, we can let the mayor speak on this, and then each council person will be allowed to voice their opinion on it as well.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks to everybody that came out on both sides of the issue. It's good to see lively discussion. I know the chief was talking about a homicide that took place at a gas station on Gosselin and Holman. He mentioned that there was an infant child in the back seat. I have a different, I mean, obviously it's a horrible tragedy that happened 2 years ago. It's not recent. We have recent crimes that took place. Even since we've been debating this issue, some crimes were taking place in the period of time that we're talking to shutting them down. But the one on Gosselin and Holman is one that sticks out in my head. I remember it was a double homicide. It was a shootout going down the street. Basically, picture Gosselin and Holman, the gas station there on the northeast corner, and there was an argument at the pumps. And a man and a lady, I believe, jumped into a Buick Rendezvous, and they started hightailing it at midnight, 12:30, towards Illinois, which is only not even a mile away. So they're going down Gosselin at a high rate of speed, right in the border of the 1st and 2nd District, and then the 3 occupants that were arguing with them jump in their car, and they start driving at a high rate of speed. By the way, everybody in this incident was from Chicago, and they were all coming to Hammond at midnight on a Sunday night. It's a freaking Sunday night. That's why it sticks out in my mind. I remember this. Like, most people are getting ready for the big work week the next day. We had this gas station open. We had a bunch of people drive in, get into an argument, and then drive in at a high rate of speed down Gosselin. They were shooting each other, hitting cars and houses on the way out, killing the 2 people in the car. That's a horrible tragedy. But let's talk about what we had to do as Hammond Police Department to respond to that. How many officers got pulled from all of our districts to go respond to this horrible high-speed shootout that occurred on the border of the 1st and 2nd District? This is our job, council. This is the stuff we got to do. Make tough decisions for the safety of our residents. All of the officers that were supposed to be protecting our neighborhood on that night got pulled out of our neighborhoods to respond to a shooting that occurred in a small part of our city. That's your job, to fix that kind of injustice. That's not the only case, and I don't know what stats are being cited. We have the stats because we're the police department. My staff went through every single stat that occurred from 2019 to the present. And at the gas stations that are open 24 hours, we've had 1,803 calls for service. At the 24-hour gas stations, 1,800 calls for service. Let's say it's something simple, like somebody slugged me. How many officers are you going to send to that in the middle of the night? 1? No. 2, 3, 4? Most likely. Multiple cars. Those are people that should be in your neighborhood, councilman, protecting your house from burglary or bad guys that want to do bad things. That's where I'm coming from on this. It's a tragedy. And you're right, stuff does happen during the workday. This stuff is happening in the middle of the night when we should be protecting our neighborhoods. And closing businesses works. At nighttime, why aren't liquor stores allowed to stay open all night? Because the state recognizes when you close things down, it helps control crime. That's why bars are shut down at a certain time. That's what we're trying to do, guys. There is a system in place that will allow gas stations that make sense to be open for 24 hours to stay open 24 hours. Things that we could get them to do is like connect to the FUSIS system in the Hammond Police Department. The FUSIS system, my building in Hammond was the first one that connected up to the FUSIS system. And the Hammond Police Department can tap into my computers, right? All of my cameras on my building right now. And if there's a crime occurred in real time, they could capture that crime right in their car. But hardly any of the gas stations are signed onto our system. Why? Because we got no pool. They don't care. They're selling beef jerky 20 minutes after somebody gets shot. We need to fix this problem. This is our job. It's easy to come in here and be popular, guys. But when you have a problem and people are getting killed like they are, just since we've been debating this issue, just since we've been debating this issue. On July 11th, 2023, in Hammond's 2nd District, we had a 35-year-old father of 4 shot, passenger in a car, shot, simple argument at the gas pump, shot in the stomach and killed, father of 4. Just since we've been discussing this. Hammond's 4th District, June 27, 2023. It wasn't at midnight. It was at 9:15 p.m. 22-year-old male shot. August 13, 2023, Robertsdale. Multiple clerks and customers were the victim. 1440 Indy Boulevard, 10:15 p.m. Robbery by a male armed with a gun. I've heard a lot of people that are really concerned about, we're going to get sued, Mayor. We may get sued. I'm going to acknowledge it. But we're going to win if we get sued. That's the most important part. Anybody could sue. But to win is the key issue. And I don't think, I'm going to go through a couple times that we've been sued, and the council wasn't concerned. All of a sudden that we have this concern. How about when the Franciscans decided to shut the hospital in downtown Hammond? We sued, we lost, we knew it was a tough case, but we did it anyway. I had total support of the council when I did that. When we put the curb up on the Indiana state line in the 4th District, we got sued, we won, didn't stop us from doing it. How about when we raised the price of water so that we wouldn't lose water every gallon that we sold? We got sued by Illinois communities. We won. We make about $10 million extra in water sales to Illinois because of that lawsuit. What about when we got sued by the customer communities because Hammond was subsidizing all the sanitary district rates for every city and town around our city? We got sued. Didn't stop us. We won. If we get sued, we will win. And if we don't win, let me tell you something. You want to hang that on my head? That Mayor McDermott tried to shut down the gas stations to save his city Hammond's crime rates, and he lost. What a jerk, huh? He lost that case. Hang it on me. I don't care. This makes sense. You talk to an ordinary Hammond resident and you ask them about this, they're like, this is so dumb. Why are you guys fighting so much over this? This is a no-brainer. That's why I'm frustrated. I think we vote this through, we do it 9-0 to show solidarity, and if we get sued, we fight them in court, we hire the best law firm we can, and we win. I want to point out one last thing before I shut up. City of Oak Park passes a gas station ordinance in September of 2022. The final straw for them was an 18-year-old who had just graduated from high school got killed at one of their gas pumps. The final straw was 1 murder. 1! How many have we had? Gas station owners file a temporary restraining order against Oak Park, and they win. Within a couple months, the judge ultimately overruled the gas station owners, set aside their temporary restraining order, and the city of Oak Park went on and was allowed to set the limits. Their limits are exactly the same as ours. We didn't look at this until recently. They shut down at midnight, they open up at 5 a.m. They cite the same exact things we're talking about right now. This is not far from where we are. They were going to the same Court of Appeals that we may end up in, and they won, just like we will. That's all I got, Councilman.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
For those in the audience who do not know what the FUSIS program is, please explain that in detail.
This is a great program, and if everybody in the city of Hammond was part of this FUSIS program, it would expand the reach of the Hammond Police Department to Ring doorbell cameras, security cameras outside the hall. So like City Hall is part of the FUSIS program. So if Chief Short sees something going on, he could tap into our cameras and look at it right from his car. So why wouldn't we want this at some of these gas stations where this violent crime occurs? We had one happen recently where it took us like a day to get the security cameras because it was an old-fashioned system. They're like, gotta call the boss. Boss is on vacation. It's gonna be a couple days. And in the meantime, we're waiting to get critical evidence and the bad guys are getting away. Instead, they could just sign up and be part of that system. I signed up my building. What's the big deal? We don't commit crime there. God bless the police department. I'm not afraid of them. Sorry, Councilwoman.
So if I understand correctly, a business, a home, whomever, can, if they have a security camera, they can give the Hammond Police Department the capability to view their camera
Yes,
at
ma'am.
any time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And so let's say, for instance, I'm going to pick the new Casey's. It's not even built yet. I don't think they're represented. So I'm going to bring it up just because they're not here, okay? The new Casey's says, Mayor, we're interested in being open 24 hours. I say, sir, you're going to have to approach the Board of Public Works and give them your case. I imagine the Board of Public Works, there's a couple people here right now that'll say, hey, Casey's, you know what, why don't you join the FUSIS system? It'll help your application a lot. And Casey's will go, you know what, that's a great idea. We're going to sign up for the FUSIS system. That in itself would help the city of Hammond. That act in itself, leverage that we don't have right now. Right now, they can do whatever they want. Hey, can you join the FUSIS system? Go screw yourself. All right, have a nice day. We can't do anything. This gives us a little leverage, Councilwoman, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And, Mr. Mayor, are do all of the gas stations, after reading through that ordinance, I want to say fueling stations, but do all of the gas stations have business licenses?
No, ma'am, but that's my problem. We recently did and it would be unfair to bring it up now, because if they're not active in their business license, it's our fault. But there's a number of gas stations whose business license has expired, which is a problem, and we'll follow that up. But I don't want to expose them right now, because quite frankly, it's my fault as mayor. That's something we should have caught. But that's a great point. I think good businesses in the city of Hammond make sure that their business license is renewed.
Personal
There's
responsibility.
literally dozens of gas stations that could care less about when they renew their business license. So we'll follow that up, Doug.
Mr. Mayor, is it accurate to say other businesses haven't had business
sir.
licenses just because of the
Yes, sir.
computer and
That's
the way we
accurate.
track?
That's accurate. It's a problem. We're constantly seeking out people to renew their license, and it's not very much. So it's not like they're trying to save thousands of dollars. So in their defense, that's a great point.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilwoman.
am I clear to make a comment now?
Yes, you want to,
Don't we have to go back to regular
hold on
order
one second.
business?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that...
Wait, I don't want to go back to regular business. I want to just make a comment. Can I do that?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So let me be clear and on the record while we're in this public time. One, not that I don't agree with our police. I don't want you to think that at all, because I know you're here. But my whole reasoning behind asking for the public hearing was just so they can understand what was going on. I don't not agree with the whereases that we have read, because I talked to Kevin about them. He explained some things to me. He made it clear. Everything that we've been talking about in the public hearing and talking about with FUSIS and things like that, getting security guards, have been put in here. So me asking for a public hearing was just to make them more aware and them to have better understanding. And I'm sorry if you took offense to me asking that, but I wanted to make sure that everyone was clear and not having to hear it read, because sometimes we just don't digest all this information the same. So I understand that this is a hard situation for us all, and we have to bite the bullet and go ahead and go with this. So making sure they understand FUSIS is in there, asking for security guards is in there, all these different details, and understanding there is clarification on when they do go to the Board of Public Works, how their case will be heard was important to me. And those things were answered in this ordinance now. So I'm not taking offense, no kind of way, but I do feel that having them understand where we are now from where we were weeks ago, it wasn't a stall tactic. It was just making sure everybody was on the same page. So if they did have questions, they were here and we can answer them and make sure they're being a part of all the things we've been suggesting from day one, which was security, FUSIS, and everything else, and proper lighting. Because yes, I do go to a gas station at night, especially if I have to leave out of town. And if I forget to get gas before I go to bed, I might need to stop. And I know I feel safer when there's lights on going to that gas station. So, thank you.
Okay. Would we like to go back to regular order of business?
So move.
Second.
With a motion, a second to go back to the regular order of business. Roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali, Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. Going back to regular order of business, passes 9-0. We are still on discussion of ordinance 23-16A. The council, anybody from the council like to discuss 23-16A?
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
when this whole process started, the first question I asked was, I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear from the police department, I want to hear from the owners, I want to hear from the public. And I think over the 3 meetings that we've discussed this being the 4th, because we did have a lengthy discussion when we introduced it on first and second reading. I think, you know, as an elected official, like I said at one of the meetings, we're the fiscal body, but we're also responsible for public safety. Well, you know, we're kind of in a unique position. Yeah, we're all elected to represent our communities, and I think we all try to represent our communities as best as possible. But I'm not on the street 24/7. I don't have to walk up to all kinds of situations and have to deal with it. And then when you're dealing with it, there are people that'll tell you that the police are the problem. Well, I'm here to tell you, when the police department tells me this is something we need, like the police department has, we had 2 chiefs, one spoke tonight, one spoke in caucus, and a 3rd chief that couldn't make it tonight told me this is what they need so they can represent our districts and police our districts. I'm a yes on this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Warple. Anybody else?
Mr. President,
Councilman Vines.
I first would like to address Mr. Witham, I believe is your name, that people don't want to deal with the police. It's the knuckleheads who are doing something wrong who don't want to deal with the police. Anytime you need help from a police officer, they are there to serve and protect you. And I stand our police department up to any other police department. They go above and beyond. And kudos to all of you. Thank you for allowing us to sleep at night, knowing that you are there to protect us. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and my family's heart, and my neighbors, and everybody on my block. We know that you are there to protect us, and I thank you for that. With regard to some of the calls, I've been through the list of calls. There is everything from a disturbance, suspicious vehicle, domestic battery, which that's a scumbag to start off with, theft, intoxication, alarm, disturbance, suspicious vehicle. Somebody made these calls. Was it the person in the gas station? Was it, excuse me, a customer, excuse me, that was afraid? Somebody had to make that call. So that tells me, excuse me, that tells me that some shenanigans are going on there if there are that many calls, regardless of who makes them. if it's the employee, if it's the customer, or whatever. As far as job losses, my heart goes out to those who would lose their job, working the midnight shift. As I mentioned in a previous meeting, we have a job fair coming up, September 21st. I don't mean to sound flip, but sometimes, you know, door closes and a window opens. You may make more money at the next opportunity that's presented to you. I happened to speak with a gentleman who lives on the street just north of a speedway on Calumet Avenue, and he said for years, he has seen drug deals going on at that particular gas station. Now, what does that tell you? That is a meeting place. It's obviously a meeting place for these people who choose to live their life that way. But the people on that block don't choose to live their life that way. They expect us, the elected officials, and the police department to protect us when they're in their homes at night. And I believe this is a good step in achieving that safety for the residents in our neighborhoods and our city. And once again, I just want to say thank you to the Crime Watch people who showed up tonight. You are there once a month, giving the information to the people who are interested in what's going on in their neighborhood. Thank you to the community policing officers. You show up to our meetings and you give us that information. I appreciate, and the people who show up to the meetings appreciate your efforts. And I am a yes on this. I am a firm yes on this. I will do everything in my power to protect the residents of our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Anybody else from the
Mr.
council?
President.
Councilman Emerson.
One of my criticisms a couple meetings ago was the lack of data. Well, we have the data now, and one thing I learned was military time, say it happens at 15 after midnight, it's 24:15, and police time is 00:15. I learned that a couple meetings ago. But I want to just, this business of 8 calls and 7 calls, I want to just correct this gentleman. There were 86 calls at 169th and Calumet, and 47 calls, I'm sorry, at 175th and Calumet, and 47 calls at, and these stations are open 24 hours, at 175th, or 169th in Calumet. But since we last met, there was a homicide in Lansing, our neighbors to the southwest. And there was a shooting at Calumet and 169th, although it was not within the hours we're talking about. But any shooting, and I stopped in there and talked to the manager of the store, and they said that he was in surgery the next day. That's in my district. That's in the 4th district. this was within the last month, give or take. You know, so the fuchsia system is better pictures, and that's what we're talking about. You know, I'm from the old school where you'd have the video camera and you'd be bouncing around taking the picture of the kids and everything. And these are crystal clear pictures, and that's what we need to do. But anyway, show the real stats. The real stats are disarming to me. And it's mostly stations that are open 24 hours. There's a number of stations in the 4th District, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but some are open 5 to 10 p.m., some are open 5 to 11 p.m., 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., but there's only 2 that are open 24 hours, and they seem to be a problem. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Emerson. Anybody else?
President?
Yes, Councilman Spitali.
Earlier, we did hear from 3 chiefs in the caucus room. One of them was up here a little earlier, talked for 23 years. He said the problems have been there, and damn, it's well overdue to take care of this. We have the best damn police department and the fire department. When call these stations, it's taking time from the residents of our city who may need help from someone else. The job that we have as council members, our job, I always thought was, as our side is, our job is to help keep the city safe. We've had those stats that came in the last meeting, and the stats are okay, but when I have the gentlemen to come out there, every night they're doing the mid shift from I guess you go from midnight to 8. They come back and tell us exactly what's going on. Stats, I know they were talking about here, that's not all. It is a lot, but knowing and listening what these gentlemen do out there, you do a damn good job, and I'm telling you, we've got the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Spitali. Anybody else?
Mr. President, I know.
No, let's give everybody a chance
Okay.
first.
I would be brief.
Everybody else has, I want everybody else to have a chance first.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Tyler.
I have a few things to say, so just bear with me. I feel like in a lot of ways, people are trying to oversimplify this issue. And I understand that for some people, I guess it may be very simple. And I think for us, like many of my colleagues have shared, we have a lot to consider when making a big decision like this. And I think even the mayor called that out. There's a lot that goes into play in terms of this ordinance and what could come of it. And so as part of the reason why I want to continue this conversation, I am not trying to shoot this ordinance down. I believe that based off the data that we've seen, based off the conversations that we've had, based off the testimonies from our police department, there seems to be an issue. I would like to better understand exactly what that issue is and where those issues are before we move forward with passing an ordinance that, in a sense, might or might not actually impact the issues that we're seeing. I think that there is a chance that this could help. There's also a chance that the issues that we're seeing at these gas stations, whether they be carjackings, burglaries, or whatever, could move to other businesses that are open during that time. And so I just want to make sure that if we're going to pass something, that it is as effective as possible instead of us, I think, moving too quickly before we make a decision. So, for example, there have been other communities. I know we talked about Oak Park earlier. DeKalb County in Atlanta passed a resolution that wasn't about changing the hours of gas stations. That was in terms of operating hours, What it did, though, was it called for them to improve their security systems, so for their cameras, alarm systems. Some of them even called for businesses outside of gas stations, those that they consider could be high risk for serious crime, to be a part of this as well. And so I know we've talked a lot about regulating the hours, but I think part of what we're saying is that we just want a way to hold these gas stations accountable. And I think that there's ways to do that without impacting the hours. And I would like to have that conversation before we decide that we want to impact the hours, because I do see that as kind of, not like a last step, but it does seem very final, when there's other things that we could perhaps try to do before we implement this to change the hours. I also feel like, to Mayor's point, Oak Park, I think was a little bit different, Mayor, just in the sense of they not only passed this for gas stations, they also passed it for convenience stores too, and other businesses that they thought were seeing the same types of crimes that they were seeing or could see. So I think we have two other examples out there that we could kind of use to improve our ordinance and make it a bit stronger before we pass it. And then the last thing I'll say is that I talked about, before I get to my last point, it could also be a way for us to require that all gas stations or businesses that are open between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. Implement access to the Fuses program. So that is something that we can just put in the ordinance to make these businesses do that, instead of having to jump through this hoop of shutting them down and then having them reapply to stay open, and then as a requirement of that, have them then add the Fuses system. We could just do that for all of these businesses right off the bat. And as I opened up by saying, I don't think this is a very simple issue. I do think it's complicated. And so for us to say that anybody up here that doesn't vote yes doesn't support our police, I think is a ridiculous statement to make. And I'll just say that I support our police. I partner with our police. I believe in our police department. I do feel like they are the best police department in the country. But I also feel like I was elected to ask questions. I was elected to seek the truth, to figure out what is best for all of the parties involved, and represent not just my district, but the city. And I try to do that with respect. I try to do that with care. I try to do that with consideration. And by taking another meeting to figure out if this is the best way that we want to move forward, I think that's what the people would want us to do and make sure we get it right. So that's kind of where I stand. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kowinski or Torres, would you like to speak on this issue?
No comment.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I want to say that I really appreciate the mayor's passion and concern for this ordinance.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate the public's view and comments. George, thank you. All the police that have come forward in the last few meetings, your input is vital, and we appreciate that. Having said all that, there's something to be said about how we got here. 2 weeks ago, we didn't vote on this because we got stats from the police department just minutes before the meeting, so it was impossible to digest that, and I think everybody knew that, so that's why we had this meeting today. And then the addendums that came in were a couple days old now, but much of the public probably hasn't seen that. So I can appreciate gas station owners, managers, bewilderment about what this is. It's hard to digest in a reading, and I can appreciate that. A lot has happened. This is a very controversial ordinance, but maybe it doesn't have to be. I think we all agree that there are issues at gas stations that need to be reduced and resolved. On the other hand, life has changed in Hammond over the years. On July 29th, there was a homicide in broad daylight, just yards away from Harrison. The next day, another homicide, but across the street from where the first one took place in broad daylight. Friday, in daylight, 3 blocks from me, there was a shooting, and a fellow was shot twice, and it was an incredible response by the police and the fire department and the EMTs, and I really appreciate all that you all do. Things are different in our city. We require different tactics, and that's understood. This ordinance, when it came about, my understanding is that when it surfaced, the gas station owners, managers weren't aware of it till it came before us. Most of the council, I think, heard about it when it came out as well. And the ordinance is hard, it's aggressive. Some people say it's hostile and antagonistic to a certain group. And perhaps that's the take by some people, and I get that. So, I'm in favor of doing something too. But I think that what we do maybe has a place where we enroll the cooperation of the gas station owners. Now that we have meat on the bone with this, the addendum and the number of conditions that you must meet to get your opening, after we close you, maybe instead we should present all the conditions that gas stations need to operate by to the group, let them come on board. Those that come on board, stay open. Those that don't stay open. I think that we have to embrace the relationship with the business community and afford them an opportunity to self-correct before we mandate closures, and then they have to appear with a new set of ways to be. So I would like to see cooperation between the administration, the city, the gas station owners to work together to make this happen. And for those that aren't willing to cooperate, maybe there's a different road for them. Just wanted to get that out. And I appreciate everybody being here today. It's not an easy issue. My mother, who, God bless her soul, was a prisoner in a forced labor camp in Nazi Germany for 4 years. She used to tell us stories when she was raising the kids about government doing things to one group and not another for the good of all. And that resounds with me still today. And without giving an opportunity to a group to self-correct, I think we're missing an opportunity to build relationships and build a better community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Alexander, would you like to speak on it?
Sure. I believe that Councilman Tyler and Councilman Calwency are correct in the sense that these are the things that we've talked about in the last meetings, about the things we want to see happen with our owners. And he's correct about building a better community. How can we build a better community if we're not all talking amongst each other? So yes, this has always been a hard thing from day one in terms of, yes, I'm looking out for our owners, I'm looking out for our employees, I'm looking out for our residents. Do we have a crime issue? Yes, in certain areas of the city, absolutely. None of us disagree with that. But making sure that we're fair across the board, making sure that the information that we're putting out, the things that we ask for in the ordinance, those things are there now. We know that we talked about the incident happening over there at the Speedway, and the cameras are not good. Putting those things into retrospect, if they're a part of uses, they have to have a better camera system in order for the program to even work for them, if I'm correct, if what you guys in the audience. So when we're saying we want to put these things in place, it's for the betterment to make sure that all of us can do what we need to do. Yes, being elected is about doing tough decisions. And a tough decision, like Barry said, is making sure that we're looking at all aspects, even when it's going against the grain, even when it's uncommon, even when people are talking about you and the decisions that you're making. It can be hard, but at the same time, making sure that everything that we have stated in the meeting and in our caucus and in front of the public is heard is important to me. And I know that's why people elected me, to make sure I'm doing the right thing for everyone, not just one group. Because I'm not here for just one group, I'm here for the whole city. And like I said before, police, this was not a shot at you. It was about making sure everybody has a clear path so we can continue to move forward and make our city better. Thank you.
Okay, everybody's had a chance to respond. Has anybody else got anything else? or
Mr.
can we-
President,
If I,
Mr. President,
No, you can't. It's a call. Yes,
in
Mayor.
response to you guys, in my opinion, after 20 years of being mayor, the number one job I have is supporting the Hammond Police Department and controlling the crime rate. If you're telling yourself anything different, you're fooling yourself. That's all I wanted to say. You're fooling yourself if you think that's not your job. When you have the last 5 police chiefs approach you, council, and say, this is what we need to do, and you say, I need more information, you're not doing your job. Plain and simple. 5 police chiefs. You know more than them? No, you don't. Neither do I. I've been mayor 20 years. I don't know more than Andy. Not even close. You guys don't know more than the police chiefs. No matter what you get, you won't be satisfied. Let's take this vote. Let's see where you stand right now. Let's go.
Do I have a call for the vote?
call for the vote.
Roll call.
On the amendment.
On the, yeah,
Question, is this on first and second, or is this the amend with the,
I can't understand you.
is this on, when we're voting for the amendment, is it on a first and second reading, or are we voting for this to
This
be
is
all?
third and final for 23-16A.
No.
This
Point of-
vote
point of
we're
order.
taking is for 2316A, replacing 2316 in
Right.
its entirety.
Okay, thank you.
So meaning it's third and final for the amendment, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry, you're right.
If the amendment passes, then yes.
That's what I'm at, I'm getting clarity from Carmen.
Right now,
With
the motion.
amendment, it's
This
with
is-
the third and final.
No, this is
Mr.
just
President.
replacing
This is just to
2316.
replace,
Amendment.
Then that's a separate vote to pass it.
Right now, the motion is to replace 16 with 16A.
2316A. I'll handle this, Councilman.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali, Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. The amendment 2316A passes. Now,
Discussion.
Discussion on the amendment. I mean, on the amended ordinance, correct?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, we're going to have discussion on the amended ordinance?
If people want.
If they want to.
Any further discussion?
Quick.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Roll call.
2316 as amended, Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yep.
Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
No.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
No.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. What was the total? 7-2?
7-2.
2316 as amendment passes 7-2. Moving on to 2317.
2317, an ordinance vacating a 3,021-foot portion of 125th Street lying east of Calumet Avenue in the 800 to 1300 blocks of 125th Street in the city of Hammond, Lake County, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
I move that 23-17 pass through third reading and final passage.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second by Councilman Spitali. Any discussion on 2317?
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
this is a vacating of about 3,000, a little over 3,000 feet on what used to be called the Amico Test Road between the North and South George Lake Basins. Now, in the last number of years, it's not a road for vehicles, but a trail. And this is a housekeeping ordinance where the vacating of these properties are way overdue to put them in line with correct procedure and operating procedure for the city of Hammond. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. 2317 passes 9-0. That takes care of ordinances, third and final. Resolutions, we have none. New and unfinished business.
Mr. President,
We have an introduction, don't we? Of an
I'm
ordinance?
sorry, introduction of ordinances.
'2318, an ordinance recognizing Mrs. Willie Mae Durr for her outstanding contributions to the city of Hammond and designating the 1,000 block of Moss Street as honorary Willie Mae Durr Street.
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I move for first and second reading of ordinance 23-13.
Second.
Been a motion and a second by Councilwoman Alexander. First and second reading, 23-18. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Alexander.
I ask to be added as a sponsor on this ordinance.
Okay. So moved. Any other discussion on 23-18?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I know that we've had a long meeting already, but I would appreciate,
We got to make a motion. I'm going to introduce it first. Right? First and second.
that's what we're doing now. We're discussing it. Yeah, well, I was just gonna have.
Sorry.
Sorry, just asking for our clerk's office to read the ordinance in its entirety.
Whereas Miss Willie Mae Durr was born on August 19, 1923, and passed away on November 1st, 2019. Whereas Mrs. Durr, or May, as she was affectionately known, is the mother of Talia, Sylvia, Angela, and Derek, grandmother to 13 grandchildren, great-grandmother to 29 great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandmother to 7 great-great-grandchildren. Whereas Ms. Durr was a longtime activist who fought for the needs of everyone in our community, but especially our youth and senior citizens. Whereas Ms. Durr was a resident of Hammond for 60 years and was an active volunteer in the community and held several notable offices and positions, including but not limited to Hammond Public Library Board of Trustees, YMCA Board of Trustees, President of the Laura Passmore Girls Club, a branch of the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs, Tri-City Federation, the thrift shop operated by the Northwest Family Services, local Democratic organization, librarian at Brooks House, Keep Hammond Beautiful Committee. Whereas Mrs. Durr led and assisted with various community-centered events and programs such as senior proms, summer camps for children, breakfast and lunch programs, youth training and internships, and many, many more. Whereas in recognition of her services and dedication to the community, the council finds it appropriate to acknowledge her contributions to our society by designating an honorary street in her memory. Therefore, be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Hammond, on behalf of the citizens of the City of Hammond, duly recognize Mrs. Willie Mae Durr for her outstanding contributions to the City of Hammond and designate the 1,000 block of Moss Street as honorary Willie Mae Durr Street.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. Passes first and second reading, 9-0.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I
Councilman.
would like to be added as a co-sponsor to that ordinance. Thank you.
Okay.
And the room.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilwoman.
I ask that we suspend the rules to vote on this for third and final.
Second.
We have a suspend the rules by Councilwoman Alexander and a second by Councilman Kowinski. Any discussion? All in favor?
Roll call.
Aye.
Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali. Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakos.
Suspension of rules passes 9-0.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman.
I make a motion that we pass this ordinance on third and final.
Second.
The first and a second for pass third and final on 23-18. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. 23-18 passes 9-0.
Mr. President,
Yes.
before we return back to a regular order of business, Mrs. Willie Mae Durr, one of her sons is here, Mr. Derek Durr, and I ask that we give him a chance to speak, if you would like to.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, City Council, I'd like to thank you all for passing this ordinance. My mother did a lot for the city. This would have made her very proud and make me very happy. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Thank
Durr,
you.
do you want to announce the ceremony for Saturday?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to have a ceremony from 12 to 2 on Moss Street, right across the street from my mother's house, and from 2 to 4 at New Hope 2. We'll be having refreshments, music, and we'll have some plaques and some information and pictures of old Hammond as it used to be as we brought it up to today. So we'll be happy to see everybody there.
And the date?
That would be August 19th. That would be her birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
we'll also be doing the street sign unveiling during that time as well. So the entire community is welcome to come out and join us from 12 to 2 on Saturday, August 19th.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I knew Willa Mae when I believe she was on the LCEOC board back in the day, as they say, and just a great person, and I really had a lot of respect for her and all that she did on the LCE board, the Lake County Office of Economic. I don't even know what it stands for, but LCEOC Board. Thank you.
Anybody else have any discussion before we go back to regular order of business? Do I have a motion to go back to regular order of business?
Mr. President, I make a motion to go back to regular business.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Go back to regular order of business. Any discussion?
There's no discussion.
Any discussion? Discussion? Roll call?
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
No. Yes, I'm sorry.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. Going back to regular order of business. Okay.
Where are we?
Resolutions? There are none? New and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Quincy.
I'd like to place the opinion paper by our Common Counsel's attorney, Bob Berger, on file.
Second.
A motion and a second by Councilman Spitali to put the letter from our Attorney Berger on file. I guess we could do a roll call on that. No, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
as we know, today was the start of the first day of school, so I just want to welcome those that are back in school this session and hope they have a great, prosperous, and safe school year this year.
Thank you. Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? New and unfinished business is closed. Next up, public expression. First up, Gary Dreischiff. I said it right?
Hey, Gary Dreischer, 6700 Block Alexander, and Sylvester, my service dog. I got to thank Dave Warple and my neighbors, thank the heck out of him for what he's done in our neighborhood. He's the only councilman that's ever taken pride and concern of Alexander and Nickel Plate Street. The guy's amazing, super councilman, because nobody else has done that in the past. And my great aunt lived in the house that I'm in for, I don't know, 40 years almost, and talked to neighbors, and it's just amazing the work he's done. New sidewalks, the new street, curbs, all that, because it's been needed for so many years. And Nickel Plate was such a mess. So there's so many improvements he's done, and I know he's going to do more, but I just got to thank him and deep from our hearts for how much he's helped us. Thank you very much, Dave.
Gary.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, George Stoya. LaToya Daniels.
It is a great opportunity to have to be able to speak to you guys today. I don't know if you know of my situation, but as you stated, my name is LaToya Daniels. I am a resident of Robertsdale, Indiana, and for the past few weeks, I have been dealing with a horrible situation with my next-door neighbor. After a couple of weeks ago of him calling me the N-word and threatening me to get on my home, he took those threats to another level and decided to damage property as well as bust a window out while myself and my husband were inside the home, as well as other threats that his wife made against my family, threatening to burn my house down with my children inside, and many other things. During this time, we were in close contact with the police department as well as the chief and the mayor about this matter. We saw that he was removed from the home, and we decided maybe we're safe. Maybe we can go back home and, try to be a family in our neighborhood again. We did that August 10th, 2023. We went back to our home and we stayed the night. The next morning, I did not feel comfortable, so I woke up and left after my husband went to work. When I got home to my mother's house, she noticed something hanging out of my tailpipe. Somebody had stuffed an unknown substance deep into my tailpipe of my van, of which I had currently been transporting myself and my 5 children in. I had no idea. I had been driving around for about 2.5 hours without knowing this. Luckily that day I kept the windows down for whatever reason, I don't know, but I did. We had to take it to a shop to get everything removed out of the tailpipe. They said that it looked like somebody had stuffed a wig inside of my vehicle.
Pull the mic, there we go.
So after that happened, I called the police department in my mom's area. They said that we had to go back to Robertsdale to make the report. So I came back to Robertsdale to make the report, and I called the police department. My husband and I waited outside of our home for over an hour with no response or call back from the police department. After that happened, my husband and I decided it would be best that we go to the police department ourselves to make the report. We requested to speak to the chief or a supervisor, only because at this point, we had been dismissed by the police department so many times. After I was called the N-word, a police officer looked me dead in my face and said, "What do you want us to do? It's just words." This was said to me in front of my 15-year-old daughter. I had to explain to her why this man called me a nigger in front of my family. Unacceptable. We went to the police department and tried to make a report. A supervisor by the name of Sergeant Fletcher approached my husband and myself, and he was amused by our circumstance. Instead of meeting us with concern and worry for what had happened to me and my children in that vehicle, he laughed at us and said, "Is there really even a need to make a report? Is there any damage to the vehicle?" Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Doesn't matter if there was any damage to the vehicle. Had I driven that vehicle any longer, it could have harmed me and my children. I could have passed out from carbon monoxide poisoning and veered off the road with my babies inside my car. The car could have caught fire with my babies inside my car. It does not matter if there was damage to the car. I just want to make that clear. We ended up having to make a report with the police officer at the desk because Sergeant Fletcher decided that we were no longer worth his time or conversation, and he walked away. I would like to say that there have been some police officers and some people who have taken this situation seriously and have done what's in their means to help. But this, whatever is being done, is not enough. He was removed from the home. His wife is still there, the woman who threatened to burn my house down with my children inside. And the next morning, after spending our first night in our home, after 2 weeks of having to leave for our own safety, there was something stuffed in my tailpipe. I am addressing you guys today to not only ask what you can do to help me and my family, but also to let you know what's been going on, because from the looks on your faces, I can see some of you have no idea. You've never been told. No one said anything to you. And that is the responsibility of the people I've already spoken to, who do have your ear, who can tell you what's happening to me and my family, and are not moving to do anything about it. My family and I are now forced out of our home. I've had to register my children in new schools, and I'm currently living in the basement of a family member with 5 kids because I have nowhere else to go. This is unacceptable. Thank you.
Elvin Cheeks.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Barry Taylor. You were correct in regards to the gas stations. My situation is unique. I was brought in by Clayton Potter when I was 19 years old to work in Robertsdale. After working for him, he made me a partner. He made me a shareholder in his life and his family's life. You cannot police gas stations. Gas stations, they're high volume. Clayton Potter, he owned every gas station in Hammond until the casino gambling came in, and we sold off holdings like Lake George, we sold off to Bill McKemery. Currently now I'm a high-risk private contractor for fireworks stands and gas stations in Hammond and throughout Lake County. The violence that happens at gas stations happens everywhere in America. You know, we only have so many police officers that work so many shifts, so many square things. So if you base it on that alone, you cannot police the gas stations. You're right, Barry, and I'm impressed. I've been watching this issue, Barry, and I have to say, me and you, I had my doubts about you, but I saw a lot of kahunas, and I can respect that. Clay Potter made me swear on his deathbed that I would continue to work in Hammond, and that if I die, my sons would continue to work to see good things happen in Hammond. I own property in Robertsdale. I own property all over because of Clayton Potter. You know, you're not going to be able to fix it like they're trying to fix it. I know all the chiefs that they named, from Freddie Barron's worked for us before. I know Frank Mervan. I know all of them that were former chiefs in the city of Hammond. Contracting don't go like that. Clay Potter sent me off to work with some of the biggest oil rig companies in the country. And I learned from that, and I brought it back to Hammond. It just doesn't happen the way most people don't even know. I was shot at a gas station in North Hammond. Me and Clay was shot one night bringing in money. So violence is going to happen because it's so high volume. People buy cigarettes. They're always trying to rob our cigarette stuff. They buy it at a high level in the city of Hammond. Hammond is the most highest producer of gas and cigarettes in the nation. In the nation. Only place that sells more cigarettes and gas is in Germany. The 5 Point stand down there, it generates millions of dollars in a couple of hours. Police can't sit there and babysit any one business. So to say the police can fix it, it's not possible. It happens through community involvement, and changing the hours, that's not going to stop it. But I just been watching, and I thank you, Barry, for at least looking hard at the issues, and what you said was a fact. And I'm a man, when I see somebody telling the truth, I speak on it. I just don't come anymore. I'm retired, but I had to come speak on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.